Hello, welcome to Sliver Surfer 1. This is Travis, and today I'm going to be doing a lens comparison between a Super-Takumar 50mm 1.4 M42 mount and a Super-Takumar 1.4 50mm M42 mount lens. Okay, I'm not actually doing a comparison of these two lenses. I'll be doing a review on these two lenses, but what I'm going to be doing is mounting them on an A6000 and a Fuji X T10. I will be comparing the JPEGs of these two cameras with the exact same lens on each camera within seconds of each other. First, I'll take a shot with the Sony A6000, and then I'll take a shot with the X T10, and they'll both have the same exposure. They both have the same f-stop. Most of them will be set at 5.6. I'll shoot some at 1.4 and some all the way up to 11. But f5.6 is the main aperture that I'll be using. I will take at least one shot today with the flash on, and on both of these cameras I will be using the Takumar 28mm hood because I only have one 50mm hood. And the way you add these on is just put them on the ring and you turn them, and they grip quite well. You can see both lenses are yellow. That is a thorium coating. It's the radioactive coating that they used to put on them. It's completely harmless. This lens has a minimum focal distance of less than half a meter, less than 1.5 feet. Don't worry about the yellow tint because the cameras have auto white balance, or you can fix it in post, but I'm shooting both these cameras at an auto white balance today. I set pretty much all of their settings identical today, okay? We have, like I said, they're both shot in auto mode. They're both shot in sRGB. Okay, so the reason why I shot in sRGB is because these shots aren't going to be printed. Monitors use sRGB instead of the Adobe RGB. So if you're just going to use it for Facebook or YouTube or whatever, use sRGB instead of the Adobe RGB. It's shot in A. I have the dynamic range both set to standard. I have this one set to the standard film simulation, the very first one, and I have this one set to standard color instead of, like, this one has standard, neutral, vivid. I can't remember all of them in there. Normally I shoot with neutral, but I'm shooting this one with standard, and then this one in the standard film simulation, because there's no choice not to do a film simulation in there. I will be shooting them all at 0 for color and sharpness, so there's no added sharpness. Well, they both do add sharpness in them, but they're both set at 0 for all the settings. Okay, we'll talk about the lenses right now. These lenses are all metal construction. They have an aperture of 1.4 to 16. They have an auto and manual aperture switch. Doesn't matter when you have them adapted for cameras, okay? What it matters for is if you do have a film camera and you use this, it'll close down the aperture to whatever it's set at. The aperture is a 6-blade aperture. It's not very round. This lens was manufactured in the 60s and the 70s. It's a very fast lens. You can leave these in the sun or under UV light. It will get rid of the yellowing of the thorium. Sony's are a little bit cool anyway, so it looks good on those. As you can see, it's all metal. It has nicely knurled and smooth focus. It takes a 180 degree turn to focus from 1.5 feet or about 45 centimeters to infinity. You have a little box in here where you can read what the focal distance is. All right, it clicks very nicely, very smooth, so it'll click in half stops all the way up to 16. These lenses are 40 or 50 years old. They're in excellent shape. They hold up over time. They're pretty easy to find. They're about $150 dollars to buy. I'm going to be shooting them with the Asahi optical Takumar hoods. I'm not going to be using the 50mm hoods today because I don't have two of them. I just have one. But the way you put the hood on, this is a 28mm. As you turn it like that, it goes on the outside, and you turn it like that, and they clamp right on there. And these lenses are very precise. They're made in Japan. Let's get to the samples. I shot both these bodies today with the same lens. The knobs on this one tend to get knocked out several times. This one got knocked to 4,000, taking them in and out of the bag, just grabbing them. This one didn't get knocked out at all. They're very firm compared to these ones. They turn very, very easily. This one got knocked into advanced a couple times as well. It's a tiny bit cooler, but this one's a tiny bit warmer, so they're both pretty good at guessing the auto white balance. They're both great cameras for shooting these. This one is easier to get pictures in focus. This one, the viewfinder isn't as good as the viewfinder in this one, and neither is the LCD. They're not. It's not as good as this one. More difficult to see when it's out of focus because of the quality here. You can really tell when it's sharp, but you can't tell when it's absolutely sharp on this one. They both feel nice with the lens. Using the manual focus, they both feel nice. There's no hood on this one, there's a hood on this one, so it's easier to focus in daylight, which I was shooting at. The sun was high in the sky. It was about 1:30 to 3 o'clock where I was shooting both these lenses. I think this one has more internal sharpness. This, like, it will sharpen it for you. This one's 16 megapixels, and this one's 24 megapixels. That doesn't matter for this comparison, okay? Because I am shooting them at sRGB. These photos are what 90% of the photographers use nowadays. They're photos for social media style, okay, for YouTube, Facebook, whatever. If you're shooting sRGB, it's the best one for putting up on the internet. Like, I do prints as well. If I planned on doing prints, I would be using the Adobe RGB, but I'm not doing prints. This is for a comparison of the JPEG output of both of these cameras. I didn't notice a huge difference between the two. I think they both do a great job at what they do. The only difference I noticed is how the auto white balance was, and none of them did a terrible job of doing the auto white balance. I think they're pretty darn close on both of them. I think this one goes a little bit warmer, and this one goes a tiny bit warmer. This one goes a tiny bit cooler. Sometimes this is too warm and this is too cool, but you'll see in all the photos that sometimes this didn't get it right, and sometimes this didn't get the auto balance right. But quality of the images are pretty impressive for a lens that's 50 years old. They're all pretty sharp. They're all pretty punchy. The contrast is great, and you can thank the coatings. There's no chromatic aberrations, or very little chromatic aberration. This is probably my favorite, one of my favorite vintage lenses. It's definitely one of my favorites for shooting indoors, and it does look quite nice, wide open. You can use it at 1.4 because it will have a sharp point, but it'll be also quite a dreamy effect to it. It's great for portraits because on this camera it is like a 80 f2. It's like shooting that on full frame. The recommendations I have: this lens is a very good lens. If you don't have this lens, I'd recommend getting it. Get it in the Super-Takumar or the SMC version or the Super Multi-Coated. All three of those are coated, and if you get the one that has no coating, then they'll suffer from flare and glare and aberrations, and they won't be as contrasty. If you don't want to spend $150 on this lens, you could get the 55 1.8. All the things apply that I said before about getting the Super-Takumar SMC or Super Multi-Coated. If you get the 55, get that. This lens is worth the $100 to $150 if it comes with the caps and the hood. If it's American dollars, you can do about $100. It handles outdoors and indoor shots. There's really nothing bad I can say about this lens. It's wonderful. It's beautiful, nice feeling lens. It looks like it belongs on these cameras. It's very resistant of scratches. It's rare that you find one of these lenses that has haze or fungus in it. Always check beforehand. If you're mounting them to an adapter, what I recommend you doing is tightening them finger tight so that they don't rotate when you turn the aperture or the focal ring. And you'll see right here, these holes. Loosen about 2 of those holes and turn it so this is up, and then retighten them. Okay, because a lot of times, because this is a screw-on lens, you screw it on and this will end up down here or down here. So thank you for visiting Sliver Surfer 1. Please subscribe.